Good evening, everyone. We're starting our class now. It's 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're going to continue with variables in Java. I will start sharing my screen now. Okay, so quick review. What we learned on Monday was the int, which is the, let's put in a comment, int variable, which is the integer. And then also we learn about string variable, which is text. Oh, if I go back up here, then we learn double numbers with decimals, right? So, and I said I will show some operations, arithmetic operations here. So let's start doing that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do these examples. So let's start with declaring a variable. Let's say int number. So for any variable that we're declaring the data type, which is int. We're telling the computer this is a number, this is an integer, and we're assigning a value with the equal sign. We're saying it is 5, let's say, and then always end the line with the semicolon, right? So let's do some operations. So we want to, and we also want to print out, right? So we can see what the result is. So let's say num times 5, right? So num is 5, num times 5. So you can just print this, or you can assign this to the num itself. You can say num equals, now what am I doing? I'm assigning a new value. So that's what I'm doing. I'm assigning a new value to this variable is num times 5. And then here, instead of num times 5, I can just print num, because now num has a new number. So I can print the num here again, just to see the difference, right? It's out. You can say num. So I'm printing num twice. So first num and second num, right? So let's print it. Let's run it. And then, oh, we have some other stuff going on here. Let me delete those. So this is from our previous class. Let's run it one more time. And as you can see, the first num is 5. And then second num, we assigned a new value. We said this num is now num times 5. So if I change this to divide, let's see what happens. Now, the new value of the num is 1. Or I can say, oh yeah, this one, you will love it. I love this operation because it's not in regular math, right? So num, this is a module, right? So this one is going to show the remainder. So num divided by 5's remainder. Now it should be what? 0, right? So let's run and see if it's going to be 0. As you can see, there's a 0 remainder. So if I make the 6, right? Num was 6. Now the remainder will be 1 because the num 6 divided by 5 has a remainder of 1. It leaves 1. Okay. So these are the 5 operations. I can do subtract 2. So if I do subtract, then we're going to have 1 again because 6 minus 5 is 1. Okay. So now if you realize we've been using the number itself to update the number. What I'm trying to do here is I'm updating the number with a different value. So there's an easier way to do this. Instead of putting num there and the negative operation here, I can say num minus equal 5. So let's see if it's going to work. Now it should do, what it should do is it should subtract num 6 minus 5. And then it should assign that number. So the new assigned number should be 1. So let's see. As you can see, it works like charm. And I can do the same thing with multiplication. Now in this case, it'll be 30, right? So num times 5. So this is just for saving some space and preventing repetition. Because in programming, you're going to see you will avoid repetition as much as possible. That's why we write the methods. That's why we assign variables. That's why we use these operations. So we are avoiding repetition, right? Okay, so let's do remainder again. And as you can see, the result is 1. Num remainder of 5 is 1. Okay. What about remainder of let's say 7? It's a bigger number. Let's start complaining already. Just for fun, let's see. Since it cannot be divided by 7, the remainder is 6, the number itself. Okay. So these are the operations you can do with this. These are arithmetic operations you can do in Java. And these were the examples that I was just showing. Instead of typing num twice, we are just putting the operation first and equal. So that means now we're doing this operation with the num itself, with the variable itself. Okay. Oh, and this is you're going to see this a lot too, increment and decrement. So we want to increase the number and decrease the number. Let's see. I'm going to show you something else after this. So let's delete this one. What do we try to do? Num plus plus. So now I'm assigning the number a plus plus, which is plus 1. So let's see what happens. Oops. Num plus plus. Oh, it's equals. It's not equal. So let's see. Okay, let's do it here, and I'll tell you why that didn't happen. Okay. Oh my. It's not showing num plus plus. Okay. The num plus plus increases the number, but for some reason it's not printing it. Let's see how we can get this print. This num plus plus. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. All right. So it's too early, but let's do it. Let's write a for loop, right? For int I equals 0. And then as long as I is smaller than 5. So this is a loop. It's too early for this, so don't force yourself to understand. But I will show you what happens with I++. And then I'll say south I. Okay, so what's going to happen here is it's going to print, it's going to take the I value, which is 1, which is 0. So it's going to print that. And then after the first iteration, after the first cycle of the loop, it's going to be I++. So increasing the I. So the next thing it prints should be 2. So let's see if this runs. So let me just close all these, delete these. So let's look at the numbers. As you can see, this I++ is increasing the number. So let's do something different. Now let's do the decrement. Because you use this in loops mostly, so that's where you're going to see it. So that's why I thought it would be appropriate to show you greater than 0. Okay, so now we're doing the opposite, right? So now we're saying decrease the value of I by 1, starting from 5, as long as it is larger than 0. So it's not going to see 0 because I'm not saying equals 0. I'm saying as long as it's bigger than 0, keep doing this loop. So keep printing I. So first I it's going to print will be 5. Then I minus minus will make it 4. Then so on. It's going to go until it's 1. So let's print this. As you can see, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I put here equal, now it's going to print until 0 because now I'm saying as long as I is larger than or equal to 0, print, like do I minus minus every time in the loop and print whatever it's in this loop. So this is where this minus minus and plus plus is used mainly, or in a while loop, for example, while I, let's say, equals 5. No, it's not going to work. Okay, let's not get into this one. Okay, so I don't want to confuse you with the loops. When we can come to loops, we can talk about it. Okay, so that's plus plus and minus minus. That's what those are for. So usually these are used as a counter. So what we do usually, we just add a count. Okay, so that's, I want to show you some practical stuff. So we usually create a count variable and start from 0. And then we say, okay, every time I do this, if there's an if condition, we're going to see if 2, so I don't want to confuse you again, but I want to show you where these are used. We'll say if, let's say, okay, let's do a Boolean. So we're going to talk about Boolean as well, right? Boolean is clear and true. So now we're learning a little bit about Boolean as well. If is clear, then count plus plus. And then is clear equals false. If I don't do this, it will never stop. It will continue forever. Okay. Let's see. Oh, we didn't print anything. So here, let's print this. Count. All right, it's 1. Why? What happened here? I set the counter and I set a Boolean. Boolean is true, false. That's why we use Boolean. So I wanted to show you this too. So Boolean is another type of variable. We use this Boolean for mostly if conditions. So we need a condition, we need an expression. It has to be true or false. If condition goes with true. So as long as it's true, this condition is true, it executes the code within. So in this case, it's clear. Is it true? Yes, it's true. If it's true, count plus plus. That means increase the count. Count is what? 0. Count plus plus is going to be what? 1. And then after that, I change is clear to false because now it's not going to go back here and then say is clear. There's no loop, actually. It's not going to happen. But just in case, this is a habit. You have to change the condition. Otherwise, you're going to be in an endless loop. Okay, so that's how we use plus plus usually. Within a loop, we put something in a loop and then we say, let's say, count the odd numbers, count 5s in an array. So we're going to learn about array too. So how can you count that? You set a counter and then you use plus plus increment operator, right? So speaking of Boolean, let's talk about Boolean a little bit. So Boolean is like, first, when I was learning coding, it didn't make sense at all. Why would we need something true or false, right? But that's the condition. And usually you name the Boolean variables with is, like with an is clear, true, is okay, is red, is something, okay? So, because you later use this condition to execute your code, because you want your codes to be executed in a conditional format. Okay, let me give you one more example. For example, you're automating a manual test. You're automating a test, and you want to find. Let's say you're iterating on a table, okay, or in that table you're going row by row, right? And then you only need to record the values of certain number. If it's equal to something, then you will say, okay, is equal, is this, is what, whatever the condition is. Then you will record the value. So you will always have to have a condition to operate something. So that's why Boolean is necessary. So Boolean, you use Boolean to set the condition. So based on that condition, you execute your code, or you skip that part of code and you execute another part of your code. So that's how we split the conditions usually. There are many other uses as well, but this is just one simple way of using the Boolean. Okay, so Boolean can only be true or false, and you use this Boolean variable to set the condition for something. Okay, so that's how you organize your code. So you have one class, let's say this class, and in that class you have 10 different segments of code, and each segment should run according to certain condition. So you can use the if statements. Yes, you're going to use the if statement, but you have to set a Boolean to make sure that condition is true. So you run that code. If it's true, run. If it's false, don't run. Okay. So that's why we use the Boolean. All right. So let's go to the next one. So we did this one. Okay. So that's the Boolean we talked about. Stores true, false, and we talked about why. Okay. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is chars. But I want to talk about char and string together. Okay. Because what is char? Char is the short of character. It's just a single character. Okay, so what is it? So char, let me show you now what it is. Char. Okay. Let's say A equals A. It didn't work. Why? Because usually chars are within okay, I like to teach you practical ways of using it. So if this is a string, right? String, let's say hello world, right? So it's complaining now. Why? Because it doesn't know what this is. So let's say this is a string. Okay. And it's a greetings string. And I assign the value. Okay. Now we know what this is, right? So this is a greeting string. So in this string, I have characters. I have many characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Space is a character. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there are 11 characters, 11 chars in this string. So string, if you realize, all the other variables are typed with lowercase, but string is not, because string is a class itself. String has its own class. So here, no, not this one. Go to the, this is I've been using VS Code, and it's been a while I've been using IntelliJ, so that's why I'm trying to remember certain shortcuts. String is a class itself. So string is an object. So we're going to talk about that. So there is a class like this class called string, and all the methods, string methods, are within that class. But Boolean and int are not like that. So they are variables. They are pure, simple variables. All right. So let's go back to char. So this string value here is composed of chars. So char is just one letter. Oh, that's why, because I didn't put the quotes. That's why I didn't. So let's do this. Char, right? First, let's do that. First letter, and then single quotes, A. So single quote and double quote makes a huge difference. Single quote is for one character, for char, and double quotes are for strings. String is way different. I just explained. So first letter A, right? So let's say in this string, is there an A? No. So how do we know if there's an A? So strings have many methods. So let's go with one string method. So this is greeting. Greeting is a string, right? I took my greeting and I put a dot here. Now I see all the methods that this string object, because like, okay, so let's try the same thing with first letter, right? You're going to see the difference now. First letter. I put a dot. What is this? This is char. These are char. These are the variable things that we can do with the variables. But look at this string. What can you do with it? These are string methods like this char at. Okay, let's do this one. Char at. Now we have all these characters lined up right here. And I want to get the character in certain index. So remember that number. I mean, remember that this term, index. Index is the location of a character or a value in an array. Character in a string or a value in an array. So we're going to talk about array later. So don't think too hard about that, but look at this one. Index is the location of the character in the string, and indexes always start, right? So you know what? Let's do this because you learned about this before, right? The commenting part. All right. So we see our comment. Now we can type multi-layer comments. So index always starts with 0. Remember this, you're going to use this every day. Index are very important. So H is in location 0. 0. Okay. So let's print this out, right? Let's wrap this. So we're trying to print greeting char at 0. So the character at 0. We want to print that. Let's print it. What is it going to say? You see? H. And is there an A here? How can I learn this A? I can loop through it, but we're going to come to loops later. Loops are really fun. I mean, the whole programming is fun, but let's try to learn some practical ways. So now we're learning about characters, char. So char is a single character. And you may think, why would I need a single character? You will see the uses later, but one use of it is this method, char at. So I want to dissect this string. There will be a challenge, for example, when we start our course, actual course, we're going to say, okay, reverse this string. So do it in a way, write a code that will reverse the string. And you're going to use this char at methods. You're going to use the chars, every single character, and you're going to re-engineer this word, this string, and you're going to reorganize it with using chars. So chars are extremely important. Every single variable type is extremely important. So they're there for a reason. But you're going to use chars on daily basis. You're going to use booleans on daily basis. You're going to use int on daily basis. You're going to use string on daily basis. Okay, so and double sometimes, depending on the math calculation you're trying to do. But these are the variables you're going to use on daily basis, and they all have their place in testing automation. Okay, so I want to stop here. It's been around 25 minutes, but I will just do a quick review of the variable types. So and how we declare a variable. So that's a key keyword. When you declare a variable, you have to put the data type, int, boolean, char, double, string, float, or other types, right? And then name it, because that name is the name of your bucket. You're putting the value in a bucket or a box, and you're naming that box. You say, I have a box that's called count, and I'm going to put a value in this box, and that value can only be an int. And here in this case, I'm assigning a value with equal, which is 0. I'm assigning a value for this boolean. Since it's boolean, it can be only true or false. If I put 7 here, it means nothing. It's complaining. What does it say? It says required type boolean, but you're providing int. All right. Or if I say 7.5, it's going to complain in a different way. It's going to say you provided a double. You see how the system is reading these? So all these variables are so important. So false. Now I have no complaint because I'm providing the correct value. Char, if I put AB here, it's going to complain because it's single character, too many characters in character literal. See, it's complaining. And string, if I remove the double quotes, it's going to complain because it has to be in double quotes so it knows it's a text. Okay, so these variables will be used on daily basis. Just know the names now, because in the future, as we're learning if statements, as we're learning value loops and everything, all the other key components of programming, you're going to see this over and over, and they will start making more sense. But for now, just know these variables exist, and that's how we store the values, different types of values, variables to a name, to a box, to a container. Okay, that's all for today. And thank you for watching this session. Have a great night.